Have you ever felt spiritually drained, like you've done all the journaling, the meditations, the manifesting, yet something still feels off in your body? Today, we're going to dive in and talk about spiritual burnout and how that can impact the womb. But we'll also talk about the other side of spirituality where we can become too disconnected. So welcome to the SheSacral Podcast, where we help women recover their bodies from chronic burnout. If you're new, I'm your host, Lindsey Christian, a holistic menstrual cycle coach, as well as a burnout recovery guide. Many times when we think of burnout, we think of the overworking, the overanalyzing, even the overgiving, as we covered in our emotional burnout podcast episode. But what about spiritual burnout? Now, a lot of us have different perspectives about what spirituality is. And the perspective of spirituality that I want to give to set the tone for this episode is just looking at the deeper meaning of something, going in deeper than what we just see with our physical eye. I do see spirituality as something that you're creating a relationship with something that is higher or deeper than yourself that you can't always see physically. Let's first talk about when we are too spiritual. What does that look and feel like? When we're too spiritual, oftentimes we may use it as a form of escapism to not really deal with our physical present reality. It can cause for us to interpret everything around us as a sign or something symbolic beyond, what it could actually be. For instance, let's say you're driving your car and the gas runs out and you're like, man, my car stalled in the middle of the road. What does this mean for me spiritually? And I do think that there could be a spiritual meaning there, but it could also mean that, hey, we just didn't put gas in the car. Even though we can still have that spiritual meaning, we still have to be grounded and take action to put gas back in the car. I think a lot of times we don't realize just how much trying to be so spiritual and so focused on reaching higher levels of consciousness or journaling and meditating all day long, how much that energy of constantly seeking is still draining on the body. And that can still raise our cortisol levels. Or sometimes you can even see where you have something that's supposed to be this natural approach to wellness, but you feel like you're doing it wrong. You feel embarrassed in front of the yoga teacher that you're not doing the poses correctly. And all of a sudden, these things that are supposed to be more spiritual and helpful for you are actually doing the exact opposite effect. Another sign that we might be a bit too spiritual is we can almost feel a little delusional. We can almost feel like we're not present. We can feel like we're not really here, not grounded, and in a way just kind of disconnected from life. So those are some examples of what it feels like to be a bit too spiritual. But on the flip side, when we're disconnected spiritually, it may cause for us to only focus on the physical. It can cause for us to be very skeptical. It can cause for us to be even more fearful because we are not able to just kind of zoom out and say, you know what? Hey, there's something deeper here. Maybe I need to look inward or self-reflect. And I do see the womb as something that has all those different layers to it. The energetic part of the womb is going to be represented as focusing on that life force, the creativity, the emotions of things. That's really what that represents. Even how we feel about ourselves internally can be represented spiritually. Unfortunately, over time, we've become more disconnected. Whereas back in historical times, there were so many different cultures around the world that really viewed the womb and cycles as something very, very sacred. They would view the menstrual phase as something, so important and see that blood was representative of life force, not just blood. And they would use that blood as an offering to give back to the earth or to the divine, whichever that they resonated with. So that was very, very common and just like normal practice. And women were really respected and seen as these beautiful life givers. And that womb represented the power of where the physical and life meet, right? Where souls come through this beautiful portal. And I think we can all kind of resonate with that to some degree, right? We all came from the womb. So over time, that narrative started to shift with a lot of the patriarchal religions that started to brew, and it was starting to be seen as something that's shameful. Oh, you need to cover up. Oh, that's dirty. There's something wrong with you, and it started to really take on something that became very dark for a lot of women. I do believe that that's where a lot of oppression in women really started, because at one point, there was so much royalty seen with women. Sometimes there's even that fear or shame that really clouds that perspective to be able to build that deeper spiritual relationship with your womb and yourself. The other beautiful part about the womb and just the feminine body itself is really reflected as Mother Nature. I've been gardening a lot lately, and I've been growing a lot of cucumbers. And so I was learning more about, the different flowers of the cucumbers. And it's like, hey, we have the male flowers and then we have the female flowers. It's like, yeah, the female flowers actually have an ovary, and that's going to be representing the little tiny baby cucumber behind it. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense, because so many other fruits have all the seeds, and that's kind of like our ovaries that hold the eggs. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is just so mind-blowing, so amazing how we are really representative of just life. So I just think that's so beautiful. So let's talk about some of the dangers that can happen when we are too spiritual, though. Sometimes we might have a lot of fear, or we might have a lot of misunderstanding. We may not really know what's going on. And sometimes when we don't have that answer, which, let's be honest, there's not much education around women's health that is publicly known. I get that. We may turn to spirituality to give us some kind of reason, like, why am I so moody? Why am I feeling so bad at this certain time of the month? Why am I going through all of this pain and things of that nature? And unfortunately, a lot of doctors say, well, it's just unknown, or that's womanhood and things of that nature. And it really took for me in my 30s to do so much of the research and everything that I've learned with having my certification to know how much that is not normal, because that was my life, right? Dealing with all extremely painful cramping and things like that. I had no idea that it could be related to diet, lifestyle, movement, things of that nature. So I was like, whoa, I don't have to live like this. And it was just really mind-blowing, because I would try to take a spiritual approach, maybe say, hey, maybe I'm holding, in my emotions too much, which can also be a contributor. But sometimes we can only focus on that one piece. And I've even heard at times where it's like, hey, if you're going through extremely painful cramping, that you just need to feel that and dig deeper into what that is representing for you and the meaning behind that spiritually. And it's like, whoa, hold on. There could actually be something very wrong. So it can cause for us to do a lot of spiritual bypassing, where we are just turning to only the spiritual reasons behind things and not getting the help that we need. And it can cause for us to dismiss some possible nutrient deficiencies that could be going on to be able to help us to get the help that we need. And that womb is sending you signals to say, hey, something's up, something's wrong. I always say this: if we have a symptom, that is your body trying to communicate with you. We are not designed to be in pain. We are not designed to just always be uncomfortable all the time. The body is trying to get your attention to say, I need some more support, but there could be that disconnect because we don't really know what it needs because we haven't been taught. So that's why I've built the Pleasure Wire, to give women that education to be able to know finally how to take care of your body, how to finally get to the root cause holistically, physically, emotionally, mentally, everything that's going on that could be contributing to those symptoms. And then also how to take care of it afterwards, not just giving you an answer of saying, hey, well, this is what's wrong, good luck, but to actually give you that 360-degree support with food, movement, pampering, and then also a beautiful community. So if you are struggling hormonally, do not disregard that. Click the link down below so that way you can start getting answers to what could be going on. So that's one of the ways that if we're too spiritual, it can burn out the womb. So we want to be just as open-minded physically as we are spiritually. Now, on the flip side of that, if we are so focused on the physical, when we are so disconnected, that is only going to leave you with taking a very external approach to trying to get rid of the symptom instead of really looking deeper. So that will lead us to just taking a bunch of medications, or say, for instance, hey, we've got a lot of shin hair growing. I remember I went through that and I was like, maybe I should just get laser hair removal, right? But I didn't know that my body was really trying to send a message to me, and I didn't know what that message was. So sometimes we can just take all these external approaches of, hey, let me pop some ibuprofen, or I don't want to eat too much because I'm going to gain weight, or just all of these beliefs that we can carry that could be causing more damage to the womb because we are not taking care of those needs. We're trying to just cover up those symptoms. So that's where only taking this physical approach and being very disconnected can lead into burnout. And for some women, because they've just gotten to this point where they're just so frustrated and nothing is working, and they can say things like, I don't even like being a woman. I hate my body. Just take all the parts out. I don't even want to deal with this. And there is so much beautiful wisdom and intelligence with the womb that we just have not taken the time personally to discover. So that is what I wanted to cover with you today about the spiritual aspect of the womb. Remember that if you are a woman, you are so beautifully designed. You are so incredible. You've just got to learn how to work with your body. So if you enjoyed this podcast episode, let me know. Leave a comment down below. Be sure to follow and subscribe, because up next, we are going to talk about the deeper meaning behind PCOS. And this information is something you've never heard before. It is going to change your mind and your life if you have been going through PCOS, or if you know someone who is going through PCOS. So definitely follow and subscribe so you get updated when that episode is released. All right, so thank yourself so much for showing up today, and thank you for tuning in to the SheSacral Podcast.